Thank you for joining our webinar today. We're extremely excited to provide this soft launch of our latest solution, Projility PPM. My name is Annie Levand, and I'm with a Microsoft Gold partner called Projility. We've been implementing Microsoft project and portfolio management solutions for over 18 years for large enterprises, including everything from engineering, construction, IT, and new product development. PMOs and CIOs typically come to us when they can't easily explain what's going on across all their projects. They don't know what resources are working on what work. They have a hard time getting consistent reports, metrics, and dashboards to make project-based decisions. We're known for having a 98% on-time, on-budget track record for successfully implementing these solutions for clients. We offer services and solutions in 3 core areas: deployment and consulting services, Projility's core business. We provide professional services for successfully planning and implementing Microsoft Project Portfolio Management, including Microsoft Project Online, integrating PPM with a line of business applications, and delivering strategic portfolio management solutions to support top-level management planning. We also have a growing Microsoft Power Platform practice, where we are actively working with clients to build applications, workflows, and reports to automate their most important business processes. Projility also offers a set of pre-built software solutions and accelerators based upon 17 years of experience, including a set of hammerhead products that provide improved access to your cloud PPM data, accelerate access to visual reports and dashboards using Power BI, connect data between your PPM system with Microsoft Teams, and extend connectivity into Active Directory to improve visibility, insight, and control over your work, people, and projects. Finally, Projility provides post-implementation support services, including expert care, designed to assist your PMO with gaining on-demand expertise on the solution supported. We have a full online automated e-learning offering that can improve consistency and adoption for users of project management tools. We have upcoming webinars covering sessions on best practices for project and PPM processes and tools. All virtual webinars will start at 1 p.m. Eastern. You can register for these events using the Eventbrite link provided or by searching Eventbrite Projility in your browser. Hope you can join us for these upcoming sessions. All videos from this and previous series are available on our best practice playlist on YouTube, listed on this page. Topics range from managing your digital transformation program using PPM technologies to integrating PPM with agile line of business applications. Feel free to subscribe and access this library at any time and share with your colleagues. If you have questions as you watch the presentation, please log them into the questions and answer manager at the top of your team screen, and we'll review those towards the end of our session. And with that, I'll hand the presentation off to Rob Hirschman, partner here at Projility. Rob, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Annie, and thanks everyone for joining us. We're really excited to introduce you to Projility PPM. So our agenda really follows that. We're going to give you an introduction to what Projility PPM is, how it addresses some of the key challenges we're finding from CIOs and PMOs, give you an overview of the technology, and talk about the different processes it's designed to support in a project management lifecycle, give you a demonstration of the software, then talk a little bit about the architecture behind it, some of the licensing, as well as explain some of the key differentiators. Why would you look at a Projility PPM solution versus some of the other technologies you may have in place today? Answer any questions. As Annie mentioned, just log your questions as we go forward. So why is Projility launching its own PPM solution? As a little bit of background, we've spoken directly to over 900 PMO directors and IT executives over the last 4 years. The vast majority shared more and more a need to address the core fundamentals of planning, delivery, and managing projects while gaining visibility into who's working on what, all in an easy-to-use package. Over 70% of these executives said it needed to be simple, and they really wanted to start with something of a crawl, walk approach versus having to go full bore with a very large enterprise complex solution and scale it back. Additionally, a lot of their key concerns were around user adoption. If they couldn't get people to use these new tools and get data to make decisions, it wouldn't be worth this investment. With this in mind, we set off 2 years ago to identify first a solid enterprise platform that would support these key recommendations, was safe and secure, was completely cloud-based, and allowed for the flexibility needed to start small and simple and grow into functionality as an organization matured. We then went off and worked with one of the strongest Gartner and Forrester recommended players in the strategic project portfolio management space, or SPM space, to build out a very targeted solution that met what the majority of those 900 executives said they wanted, all in one platform. We then worked to ensure this application works seamlessly with existing Microsoft investments and technologies like Office 365, Project, Microsoft Teams, and Power BI, along with being delivered via a secure Azure platform. So what Projility PPM provides is a flexible option that supports core PPM processes with basic setup and configuration, and the ability to scale this to support true top-down planning and detailed, robust resource and portfolio management all in one application. We believe this solution makes a lot of sense and makes it really unique in the marketplace today. It's now filled with everything from work and task management tools to PPM systems. There's a complex array of technologies. So it's really designed to answer the three questions you see here. How can I easily explain what's going on across my entire project load? Do I know what resources are working on what work? And really address the challenge of having a very difficult time getting consistent metrics, reports, and dashboards to make project-based decisions. Importantly, those executives say it needed to be easy to use and learn and easy to deploy, and should work like we work and be flexible to change over time, because every time something happens in the environment or organization, we need to change our tools and our technology. It should be flexible. So with that in mind, what does Projility PPM do? If we look at the chart here, it talks from a crawl to a walk to a run to a fly. And what we find is that Projility PPM will support 90% of large enterprise needs in industry and government in terms of getting to a crawl and walk stage in their PMO's evolution. The solution will support crawl processes you will see here, such as basic project intake and setup of a new project, simple project scheduling, capturing of basic project metadata, and delivery of basic core reports needed to make basic decisions and status on their projects. It also allows you to move into a walk phase fairly rapidly to start gaining more granularity around your around intake, start setting up consistent project schedules based on duration, milestones, and goals, and start really getting down that journey of starting to really address resource management, which is one of those key three challenges, helping you plan and track different roles and people at a macro level required to do forecasting. It also has built-in issue and risk and action item and decision tracking, or RAID, as we call it in the industry, the ability to capture task status from team members, and finally, a level of integrated reporting and dashboards across all of this information and data. We find that this gets the majority of enterprise PMOs and CIOs 95% of the way towards having a usable solution, saves them time, consolidates the data, and provides meaningful reporting on a single cloud-based system that's highly configurable to meet your organizational needs. From there, the sky's really the limit. You can start to light up functionality or grow into more advanced functionality as you need it because it's already there, ranging from standard stage gate governance processes to support advanced project and portfolio management, to be able to do advanced resource analysis and capacity management, some more different methodologies and workflows and governance processes, and finally, the ability to do true strategic top-down portfolio management, mapping your goals, initiatives, and OKRs to portfolios and projects. So you have the ability to grow into more strategic portfolio management over time. Really, the idea is to give you more value and allow you to scale the solution over time. Instead of starting with something at the far right and shrinking it down to the left, start with something on the left you know has the capabilities on the far right. So who is Projility PPM really designed to support? Well, out of the box, it's designed to support four key roles in your organization. The first on the top left is your portfolio managers, or folks in the PMO. These are the folks that are really considering doing portfolio management and top level governance, being able to understand and answer the questions of how is my portfolio doing? What is the demand for new work coming in? What projects should and should we do? When can we do them? Do we have resources to do them? And make sure you have really good governance and controls and visibility across all these projects. There's a role on the top right for your business managers who can get in and manage resources and workload and capacity and demand. There's a role on the bottom right for your project managers and or scrum masters that are managing projects to track issues and risks and deliverables and action items, build a schedule and capture all that project metadata, and keep that data up to date so it's available for easy reporting. And finally, on the bottom left, you have your team members, and these are the folks that are responsible and assigned to different tasks and activities and milestones on projects. So Projility PPM is really based around a standard life cycle, a standard set of crawl walk processes, and the standard roles an organization driven by a PMO would need to really be successful with project and portfolio management. So with that, let's jump right into our demonstration. There's no better way to show you software than to show you software. So what we're doing is we're logging into the website. It is purely web-based application. You'll see Projility PPM we've logged into on the top left in our browser, and it supports any browser you have. And you'll see we've got a hierarchy on the left. We've got a home page, and the home page is unique for each user. What makes the home page unique is it's going to provide easy to understand my items to drive people to action. So I've got some pending items here, maybe in the PMO. There's a kickoff coming up for a project 18. There's an idea review for project 26. There's a website deliverable. There's a deliverable. There's a stage gate, a deliverable. It's not just tasks on activities on a work plan. It's actually all the things going on across my entire project lifecycle. Likewise, on the far right, it's going to show me here are the tasks I have that are late. I've got a kickoff that should have happened that hasn't happened yet. There's an idea review that I've missed, and I can very quickly click into any of these and then get to the detail and go update the status. So it's going to give me at a bird's eye view, a top-down view into what I need to work on. It's also going to give me a configurable homepage where I can see again all of my items, see all of my project requests, see all of the projects I'm working on, all the teams I'm a part of. If I had any unique alerts and notifications, and down here I have a calendar view where I can take 1 week, 4 weeks, a month out and start to look at any of the key tasks and activities I have that are coming. Maybe I've got tasks and activities and milestones and requests, and I can start to look at them in a visual on one visual calendar. Again, I'm not going into another tool. I'm doing this all from my homepage in Projility PPM. Let's hop into the first role. So let's say we're in the PMO. We may want to get a view of our portfolios. So we click on the portfolios button, and this is going to take us to a top level view. This is our central PMO's portfolio list. And you'll see in this case, we've got a couple of different portfolios here. And at the top, you see we have 4 different views we can look at. We have a grid view. We can take a look at this and say, okay, a listing of the portfolio and any metrics about them. For instance, what's the overall health of the portfolio? What are the budgeted costs? What are my actual costs? Maybe I'm doing margins and return on investment. I can capture all those here. I have a visual Kanban so I can visualize this. I have a master plan view, and a master plan is almost like a Gantt chart for my portfolio as a whole. And what it's going to show me is this portfolio is made up of different projects, different goals, different activities. I can see them all in a timeline view and any information about them here. And you'll see the new product or the IT improvements portfolio has projects within it, risks within it, features within it, stage gates within it. It's going to show me really a roadmap view of everything going on across my enterprise as it relates to my portfolios. Finally, I do have a charts view here where I can actually click into that, and I can have different charts and graphs and widgets here. So I can look at my budget and actual spend on a portfolio and a split cost-wise, and I can deploy different charts and graphs here as well. But let's hop back into the Kanban view, and this is where we're going to be able to see metrics specific to the portfolio. You can see in the IT improvements portfolio, it's an active portfolio. When did it actually initiate? And I can start to see the trend, it's stable right now. The health, it's in a good spot. The budget used, I've used 23% of my budget, and the labor completed, which may show up in red because I'm below where I should be. I've burned through 23% of the money, but I'm actually 18% done of the work. And that may be a big risk. Down here, though, you can see I have portfolio level elements that I would typically capture. Budgeted costs, actual costs, planned costs, resource planned hours. I can display all of these at a portfolio level, very quickly and easily get to them. So what happens is I can click on this portfolio, IT improvements. Now I can get to the next level of detail. And the detail in the portfolio, I'm going to have different tabs of information. The first tab is the overview of the portfolio. And see, these are pre-built widgets here. We can see the cost by the different projects I have. So I can see what my planned costs were and my actual costs to date. And I can start to identify, do I have certain projects that are maybe over our budget? The image on the right here, we can see the actual cost and as it relates to the entire portfolio. So I've got, see, project 18 is actually about 40% of our portfolio. We may want to kind of focus our eye on that. Down here at the bottom, we can see each project and all the metrics related to how it's being delivered all in one place. These are all the details that a typical PMO would want to get more information about the portfolio as a whole. We can click into the details of the portfolio, and now we've got metadata about it. We've got a percent complete on the labor, percent complete on the budget, the health and the trend. We've got a baseline start for the overall portfolio, an end date, and then the actuals and the plan dates as well. We have some goals here. What is the description of the portfolio? Then we can start taking look at information such as labor and finances for the portfolio as a whole. What's the total budget down here? Our total actual costs are about $1 million. Our total budgeted costs are $4.5 million. And we can break that out to different subsets or items of that. Likewise, we can say how many days of budgeted resources we have and how many have planned and how many have actually been used so far. But we can also capture costs at a portfolio level. And this is what makes Projility PPM really unique. We're not going to the underlying projects here. We're actually planning at a top level and saying, okay, what are the hours, the labor costs we have? And you can see how many hours by role we have in this portfolio. So we're going to need a certain number of hours for developers, project managers, department managers. We're planning at this top level. And we can also start to identify in red where we start to have deficits, where it looks like for developers in the month of February, we're going to have a gap. We've planned for a certain amount and we're using more than that. So it's going to show us our deficits here as well. Okay. We'll also be able to look here at our non-labor costs and expenses. So if we're spending money at this portfolio on material, expenses, subcontractor, it's time phase costing information. This is something a traditional project management tool doesn't really capture very, very well. You typically need to buy add-ons for that. So we can capture this, we can look at it, and then if we want more information, we come down to a histogram at the bottom, and it's going to show us the trending here. So for the consulting role or the engineering or the developing role, if I click on that, it's going to show me a histogram on what my plan, actual, and forecast is for that particular role over time. How many hours or how many dollars am I going to need to support that role? Likewise, we can flip it over to a cumulative curve, and we can see what the forecasted burn is, budget, plan, and actual to date, to see where we're actually going to have more availability or less availability and more resources required. And all this information is available at the portfolio level, which makes it really, really unique. Finally, you do have the ability here to capture what we call scenarios. So let's say in that portfolio, you wanted to run a model and you wanted to build a roadmap of certain types of projects and see what would happen if I did those projects at certain times. It does have full portfolio modeling capabilities, so I can see the 7 or 8 projects that are in this portfolio. Maybe I've got one I put in the portfolio and I can drag and drop them around. At the bottom, you see I have a curve here that's going to show me my resources and what the lack of resources is going to mean to the ability to deliver each of the projects in that portfolio. It's immediately capturing projects and resources and rolling that up to a portfolio level. And that's something we've gotten a lot of calls for over the years that a lot of traditional project management tools don't provide. But likewise, we can also create dependencies between portfolio elements. We can see that project 16, that has to finish before projects 29 and 28 even start. These are directly related to one another. So if I were to drag and drop project 16 out, that's going to impact the ability of 18, 19, and the resources for that to deliver. So it does have full scenario modeling capabilities should you want to use that. But the idea here is you've got all the information about a single portfolio in one place. Okay. Likewise, if we go over to the tab on the left, this here, for that particular portfolio, back into our IT portfolio here, you'll also see we have a couple of things. Number one, project requests. So maybe we want people to submit project requests related to the portfolio here. And now we can see all the requests coming in on a list like this, where people can come in and not only say, what is the project? What is it about? When will it start? But what's our target ROI? What is our technology score behind it? What is the risk score? So we can capture all of this information, add new project requests, but also view them on a Kanban board and start saying, well, what's an accepted versus proposed phase, or even look at it in a visual roadmap and say, okay, well, it looks like we have 2 that are initial review, where are they in their life cycle? And finally, we have charts as well. So this is all the requests that are coming in. You would capture them all associated with a particular portfolio. And from there, we can actually move forward into projects. Every portfolio can be made up of different sets of projects. And this is the listing of all the projects, allow you to really focus your eye on how these projects are doing. We've got the same kind of views here, a grid view, which is going to show us a grid and all the data about the projects, including a financial status, a technical, a risk. These are all pre-built components that we would layer in and configure based on your specific requirements. But information like percent complete, how far along are we on the work? How much of the budget have we used? How many dollars have we used? What are the total costs? What are the type of project? Maybe what are some of the goals? What's the overall project health? And we can look at that in different ways. We can look at it on a Kanban board. And now we can visualize each project with a visual that's very, very good to the eye, very easy to understand. We can see every project in execution. CRM project and the portfolio management deployment. We can see in planning, we have this router upgrade, and we also have the GDPR project. Over here, we have an ERP project that's been completed and another project down here for user support. We can visualize this in a Kanban board. We can also look at it in a master plan and think of the master plan kind of like a roadmap. Again, now we're looking at all the projects. We can look at lots of information about these projects all in one place. For instance, we come down here to project 16. We can see it's 15% done. There's a demo that hasn't been done. The draft phase has been completed, and we've got all the activities related to that project and the milestones. And then we can look at different dependencies here. We can show the baseline, where we should have been versus where we are today. And we can go over to that. We can look at different baselines if we want. We can look at different views on the timeline at the top. We can come in here and look at different information, print this out, or even kind of go top level and bottom level, looking at the entire portfolio of all the investment projects we have and show them against the baseline. So it's a very intuitive Gantt chart that shows us the relationships, the dependencies at a management level so we can visualize all this information. We can also look at this on a roadmap. So we can take a look and say, okay, well, on this roadmap, all the projects that are improving right now, all the ones that are in trouble. We can see their timelines here on a visual roadmap, all the ones that are stable, but maybe I want to focus on the ones that are in trouble right now. And I can see I've got 2 projects here in my roadmap that are really in trouble. Again, makes it easy for a director or manager to come in and really understand what's going on. So I'm going to take a look now at the project level. I'm going to double click on that. Now we're in our CRM project. And this takes us now into the details on a project. So we've gone from an enterprise level to a portfolio level, now to a detailed project level. And every project is going to have its own homepage. And this is the status where you're going to be able to see the project health, the history of when things have changed, the progress from percent complete, where is a project in your life cycle, what stage gates it's gone through, budget versus actual, and also a risk grid here as well. So you see it's almost made for a PMO and a project manager to go in, and as they're keeping data up to date, it's going to update these views in real time. We can take a look at this in different ways. We can take a look at the description of the project. And this is the description of what is the project about? What are some of the goals for the project? Who are the different key team members? And then we can govern who has access to the system through the team members. But really importantly, we have the ability to look at status. Status is super important in the system. It lets you update the percent complete, the budget, KPIs, how well are we doing on the trending, the technical, the score. But what's important is next to each of these, you'll see there's a little indicator. If we go here, we can see percent complete. It's actually going to show us the history of when percent complete was updated throughout the life of that project. So now we can see where we started from, where we are today, what the difference is, who updated it, and when it was updated. And we can have that history behind any of these fields of information. When was budget consumed on the project? Or down here, when did the business score change? Who changed it and at what points? We have a full history of all of this information right here. There's another tab for labor and finances. So we don't have to have a detailed work plan or schedule to forecast out our costs and our labor. We can see this project is 1.12 million. We've actually spent about 335,000. How much of that is related to people versus other budgeted costs? We can start to have different labor categories and breakouts of that. But also here, we can start looking at the labor and finances. And this is where we see the cost of the budget and actual over time for the different roles, who's going to be working on our project, and the non-labor costs here as well. Okay. It really gives us the ability to see the forecast on the different roles, how much we're spending on developers, consultants on this particular project. Now, like any system, we're also going to have non-labor costs, material expenses, training, travel. We'll be able to capture all of that here as well. And there's always going to be a Gantt chart. And the Gantt chart is interactive. It's really going to be for tracking the key elements of your work breakdown structure as it relates to the delivery of the project. Now, this is a really interactive Gantt. You'll see it's got the project, the tasks, the different components, whether they're stage gates or activities. Really nicely, you can actually, from this dropdown, you can show the progress to date. You can actually copy this over from a different template you have and start a new project. You can copy it from a non-template or a blank sheet. You can actually create this or keep it up to date from your Microsoft Project Desktop schedule, which is important. You can take actuals that are coming in from your timesheets, from your team members, and apply them to your schedule. So it's separate, the timesheet and the actual schedule, or you can bring those things together as well. Okay. There's also a nice visual timeline up here. So if you wanted to add maybe the kickoff to the timeline, you click on that, and it simply adds it to the visual timeline here as well. Okay. We can also look at different things like a timeline, different sizes. But we also have baselines. And as we're capturing our baselines in Microsoft Project, or we want to review those, we can apply them here, and then we can compare multiple baselines in one Gantt and one visual. We can roll this information up and down, so it's very visual, very easy to understand the progress of our project. You can see we have different stage gates here as well. So the Gantt chart is a great way to visualize the information, and it allows you different options for statusing this. Whether it's a phase, a gate, a project task, some of it can be coming from the timesheet, some can come from Microsoft Project, some could even be sourced from a different system over time, but it's one place to look at all that information. Okay? And you can actually go and undo your actions. Finally, one of the big gaps we found in project management tools is resource planning. Yeah, how do I get to a point where my resources and my projects are all tied together? So what happens is in the system, we're going to be able to see all the assignments on this particular project as a whole. So on this project, you'll see I've got 17 or 18 people working on the project. I'm going to take a look down here at 2 of my resources, and it's going to show me, I've got certain resources here that are in the red because they're over allocated. And I can see a resource has a capacity of maybe 8 hours a day. Looks like in this case, Stephanie is booked for 12 hours a day during certain periods for a multi-week period. That's going to be a problem I want to address because it looks like she's working on a project planning task for me. She may be working on other tasks. So I can start to identify the resources that are over allocated that may cause delays in my project, really importantly, in a very, very visual way. I can then go match this up to my requirements. This is where I'm going to see what resources do I need to work on my particular project so I can meet the demands of this particular project. If I wanted to capture what's called leaves, when people are out, I can see that as well, so I can plan ahead. but also I'm going to look at my resource analysis. And this is really, really powerful. So remember, we're in a project. We're not in a whole nother center where we're managing resources. So now I'm taking a macro look at my resources and saying, I've got certain people here that are booked for more hours than they have capacity for. We're going to go down to, again, Stephanie, and we're going to be able to mouse over that and understand she is a developer. She's on a certain team. She's working on one or multiple projects with certain start dates, and that's causing a negative capacity challenge here. This is going to allow us to interact with our team members, our project managers, and our resource planners, our functional managers, to really get to the bottom of the problem of why are people overbooked. And if I wanted to look at someone like Stephanie, I click on her, and at the bottom, you'll see there's a little tab that says resource details. Now I get all the details on Stephanie, and I can see everything she's working on that's potentially causing this challenge. I can see she's being used as a developer on 4 phases of this project. I can start to identify where that becomes an allocation challenge on the project. I can look at her utilization as it relates to other projects as well. So I can see not only is she working on my project, but she's working on project 30, which is the Move HR to the Cloud project, which is causing that over allocation. So now I can go talk to the project manager and say, hey, by the way, we have a conflict here, a resource conflict, because I can't have Stephanie deliver on my task because she's over allocated on yours. It allows you to communicate as it relates to the project. You can take a look at a histogram and see Stephanie's overall workload as it relates to the actual capacity she has and see where those gaps are. And finally, you can look at a curve. This is all on a single resource on a project so you can get to the bottom of what the problem is. Really powerful. We found very, very few solutions out there that can support this. That's really why we went with our own solution, Projility PPM, to marry projects and people up so you can do better planning. In addition to this information, there's other data here. You'll see on the left, we've got phases. So we can, each project can be in a series of phases: ideation, planning, execution, deployment. But importantly, there's workflow built in. So if I wanted to see the life cycle of this particular project and where it sits in that life cycle, how it started with an idea, moved through initiation, through planning, execution, deployment, we're in the execution phase, and we know that. And then we can get a report to say, yeah, when did this project move from one phase to another? We can get a progress report just on this project, and these are actually project snapshots at this point. And what the project status is going to show us at this point is what was my status this week versus the week before versus the week before. I have trending on all of this information. So I can chart this out and get reports and say I went from orange to red to orange to red, but it looks like I'm green here. And I can see where I was this week versus last week as well. You can look at this on a Kanban board. So I can visualize this and see all of the information on the project. And finally, I do have charts and graphs that are available for a particular project. So I've got a progress report right from the start that I'm capturing from each project manager. The other items I can start capturing are traditional RAID items and change requests. Hey, a change came up. I want to capture a new change request. A form would come up where I can capture the change, say what's the parent entity, go and save it, and then I can put it through a workflow or an approval process. And I can see on this particular project, I have 2 changes that have come in, and let's see what the impact schedule-wise is of these. And I can see where they sit on a scheduling board here, or I can even look at it on a Kanban and say what's been submitted, what's in draft, and move them into different stages by simply dragging and dropping them over. I can capture stage gates, as we mentioned before. You can see how projects move between different stage gates here. Gate 4 is in a planning stage. Gate 1 and 2 are past, stalled. Gate 3 is stalled right now. I can identify the problem and make sure I'm addressing it as a project manager or in a PMO. So that Kanban view is very, very popular. And finally, capturing risks and issues and action items. That's all available here within the core tool. All of this is available for all that reporting we showed you. So this really lets you get in and actually capture all of this information about your projects and quickly and easy report on them. Now, the other ability is to do project requests. So if I wanted a central queue to capture all the requests coming into my organization, I could capture them all here, have a simple request form where someone puts it in for the name, the description, and whatever information I want to capture. And then finally, I can apply it to different resource pools to understand, this relates to one pool of resources or another. And again, I can view this on a Kanban board. And now I can visually see what's in business case review, what requests are in financial approval, what have actually been accepted and have become projects that we're now managing, and what's in a draft stage as well. And finally, we can see all the requests in a timeline. And this is going to show us every request in different phase, again, business case review, draft status, financial approval, initial review, all in one place. Finally, and one of the biggest areas we get a lot of requests in is that resource management. We showed you what it looks like kind of from a micro level when you're managing a project and you're identifying what the resource constraints or challenges are. But now we have something called teams. Okay? And Teams allows you to centrally do all of your resource planning all in one place. It allows you to do every forecast and plan using a series of resource boards. So I'm just going to select the IT team for all of my IT resources. And when I get into this, I can actually see a couple of different views of data. The assignments view here, the overview, is going to show me my capacity versus my actual work for this team. So I'm only 3 or 4 months through the year, and I can see how close I am to my actual forecast. The red line is capacity. My team utilization over the last 12 months and where it's peaked and valleyed over time. I'm going to be able to get in here and look at labor and finances. And this is, again, for my pool of IT resources. How many hours I have budgeted, but what's my budget for people, and what's my actual billings that people have billed against. Then I can come over here and look at my resources, but importantly, we're going to go to resource boards. And this is really where the PMO is going to do a lot of the resource planning. And there's really a couple of components to it. We showed you before what it looks like from a project level, but now we're looking at it really from an enterprise or a group level just for my IT resources. The first view here is showing assignments. So I can see for each of my resources, all the projects they're working on and the periods where they have more work than availability. In this case, I look at Noah, and if I come down here to Noah, it looks like he's booked on 20 hours a day on certain projects. That's going to be a challenge, obviously, and that's why he's showing up in red here, just like John is doing the same thing on the projects he's working on. 8 and 4 hours on 2 projects is adding up to 12, which is more the 8 that he has available. I can see all of these in one place. And this is going to show me my assignments, who's working on what, and where I have resource challenges. So in the PMO and as a resource manager, I have a very easy way to analyze this. I can then look at my requirements. My requirements are my upfront or my upcoming demand related to this. And I can look 6, 12 months out and start to forecast this out and see what projects are being requested for what resources, for what periods of time. So I have central demand management. Leave, other activities. This would be other activities people are working on outside of the projects that debit from their availability. And finally, one of the most important parts is the resource analysis. So now we actually have the ability to drill down into capacity and status of people. And in this case, I'm going to look at Noah Jenkins, and I can see Noah has a capacity of 160 hours in February. She's assigned to 170 hours, so there's a 10-hour gap, and that's creating an orange. Whereas over here, if I look at the 168 hours she's available in April, 423 hours she's planned for. That she's assigned to. That's going to be a problem. So what I can do on Noah is do what I did before. I can click on it, and now I can open up the resource details, and now I can get to the bottom of what the problem is. Now I can see for that period, March, April, and May, I've got different entities here. For Noah, I've got different things. She's assigned to project 26, 29, 32, and 38, all at the same time. Plus, she might have some administration or some leave at the time, and that is all additive, which is creating this hours block where she goes into the red or she's overbooked. It really helps me do the analysis on the resources that I have. I can click on, again, the histogram, and I can see that on a visual curve. Now I know in the month of March, April, that's where I really have the challenge. And I want to really focus on the months of March and April. I flip over to a cumulative curve to further validate that. And then finally, I get back here and I know in March and April, I need to do better planning with her because she's got more assigned work than she has availability right now. And this really gives us the power at a PMO level to do resource planning at a macro level and start to move people around and say, well, if these guys are on the same team, maybe if I look at Megan, it looks like Megan has more availability. I click on her twice. Now I can see her availability where she has holidays or leave coming up and say, maybe I can put her on some of those projects. I'll move project 30 over to Megan and do that if I need to. So it really gives you the ability to do some analysis here, which is super, super powerful. And that analysis allows you to actually run different scenarios and models around people as well and say, if I move this resource or if I move this project, what would it mean for my team and how my ability to deliver? So these are some of the core functions that are available in Projility PPM that can really help you plan, manage, and deliver your work all in one central application. And finally, great integration with the Microsoft Office suite. We talked about integration with Project to be able to synchronize your project schedule, your MPP, but also tools like Power BI. This is that same project we were looking at with the data fed out into a status report. And now on that CRM project, we have a description, we have the accomplishments, the goals, all this is captured in Projility PPM, all the key tasks and milestones that were in that project schedule, gates, modules, milestones, and all the dates. It even brings over % complete and progress on those, which is really great. We can see our dates here. We can see the trending is all here as well. We can come down here to task status to see, what are the tasks that are finishing late? In this case, there's a lot of them. We can look at the tasks that are finishing next week. We can also go to a project burn down. And this is where we're going to be able to see the burn down of work and cost over time, people and money, all in one place. And this is how we can really leverage the best of the Microsoft suite to tap into the data that's in our Projility PPM system to get reports, metrics, and dashboards out to make really good enterprise decisions. One of the last features we have within every project is the ability to view it in Microsoft Teams. So again, let's go into our projects. Let's go into the specific project. And up here in this little tab, we can actually get an MS Teams web link. So we can now insert all the information on this project into Microsoft Teams so that we can use Teams as it's really designed to do for our OneNote notes and our meeting minutes, our document management, all of our document storage, maybe embed the Power BI reports, and then embed these pages in there as well. So you have one place to go and use Teams kind of as a front end to a lot of this information. It is fully integrated and available through Microsoft Teams here. Okay. So from the demonstration, we showed a solution that can hopefully really show you how you can truly support end-to-end project and portfolio management processes listed here. Best of all, this solution can be set up, configured, and updated using non-coding interface. You don't have to be a developer to do it. We can train you on how to do it after the system is live, and it'll align with your naming conventions, your branding, your specific business processes, whether you want to start kind of the crawl and walk from project intake and project tracking to resource planning. The budget and cost management is huge. Everybody has to track budgets, but most people do it in a spreadsheet outside of their project management system. Why not put it all in one place and be able to track and report on it? And everything around change control and PMO visibility, be able to get reports and dashboards out of the tool all in one place. That is really the goal of Projility PPM, and hopefully you saw that today, is a single integrated solution. So we also want to provide you an overview of the solution architecture and some of the licenses associated with the solution. So Projility PPM as an application lives in a secure Microsoft Azure tenant where your data is only accessible to you and your organization with security following GDPR standards. Users will interface with the system via pure web browser interface, and what they see and do is controlled by the access rules and rights set up in the system. The licenses work. There's really only two types of licenses here. There is a Plan 2 license, which is in your top box. It's designed for your project managers, your portfolio managers, and your PMO leaders that need to use the tool to make key business decisions, to plan out their work, and to drive PPM processes going forward. So a small subset of your users. Plan 1 is for your team members that are interacting with the system to provide status updates, to collaborate on key tasks, share status, and work on RAID items and do collaboration. Your project managers will be able to build and upload their project schedules as they do today in Microsoft Project, or they can use the native tools that are built into Projility PPM. Team members can view all their data through Microsoft Teams or the browser interface, but is a fully software as a service browser-based UI. So again, you can actually interface this using your enterprise scheduling with Microsoft Project. You can use Microsoft Teams to deliver all of this information to your users if you're fully a Teams shop today. And finally, just from a data access and a back-end perspective, there's a robust API that allows for integration between Projility PPM and any other systems you might have. Let's say you have a help desk application where you have trouble tickets coming in, and those tickets are going to become projects in your system. Use the API to initiate the project, use a template, and kick off and bring over the data there. Or maybe you've got a DevOps system like Azure DevOps or Jira we're using for project and task updates for your Agile or your development projects. Have it bring over the status and update your Projility PPM system. Think of it as really your portfolio and project management hub for projects, people, and resources that you have. Finally, all the data is available through data access using reporting tools like Power BI. The licensing on this is very affordable. It's a per user per month rates. We can provide specific pricing if you reach out to us, but actually it's a very affordable solution. With all the choices out there, what are some of the key differentiators? Why would you look at Projility PPM versus another solution? Well, there's 7 or 8 key points here. The first one, and we find this from talking to a lot of our clients who are piloting the solution right now, is it's flexible, it's scalable, and it's cost effective. It doesn't require you to go full bore into a very large solution. You can start with the crawl or the crawl walk and grow into the other stuff over time. Importantly, and what a lot of other solutions don't do, it stores the history and the snapshots by default. And this is really important if you're going to try to understand your trending and why things happened and when they changed. Project management systems are traditionally very, very agile. They're they're kind of rolling forecasts, and going back to what happened a week ago, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago is very hard unless you're doing kind of snapshots and baselines. This tool does that by default. And that was one of the key requirements we wanted to bring to the table with this solution. It is all configurable, so you don't need to do any coding to set the system up to enable new features. It all has a WYSIWYG drag and drop interface. It captures costs natively in the application, so you can get away from using an Excel spreadsheet and your project management system. You can keep it all in one place. It does the resource analysis, and it helps you do that alignment of your projects and your people all in a single tool set. And this is one of the key challenges with a lot of project management tools. They don't do integrated resource analysis at a project level. You have to kind of back up and look at it at a portfolio or a group level. Now it's down at a project level, which we showed you in the demo. The solution has very strong integration capabilities. It can really act as your planning hub. It's going to accept data from other systems, aggregate it, and allow you to do centralized portfolio, project, and resource management, whatever your execution tool is. So again, if you're using a DevOps tool, you're using a help desk application, you can pull that data in and we can integrate it in and use this really as your PMO hub. So whether it's Project, Jira, Azure DevOps, ServiceNow, the API can support all of that. It has an all-in-one simple licensing model. 2 end user licenses, that's it. That's what you pay for, and you can subscribe in a 1-year licensing approach. It's flexible, so you don't have to sign up for 3 or 5 years like a lot of other organizations require. And then over time, as you grow into the walk, run, and fly, you can flip on portfolio analysis capabilities that can be extended to do true top-down governance and management. Do not only intake, but prioritization, goal setting, OKRs, initiative management. You can do your what if analysis at a portfolio and roadmap level and marry that up with the data about your actual projects. And finally, one of the key differentiators, it's really built to work alongside the Microsoft tools you use today, the functional daily applications. Microsoft Teams as a user interface to really bridge the data and use the best of Teams that's out there in Office 365, Microsoft Project for your scheduling, Microsoft Power BI for reporting. You can use the native tools, you can use those, you can use a combination of them. Very, very flexible and really built around leveraging the Microsoft investments you may already have. So that was really what we wanted to do, give you the introduction to Projility PPM. We'll be doing some other webinars in the next couple of months that dig deeper into things like effective tactical project portfolio management, more deep dive into resource capacity management. We'll talk a little more about strategic portfolio management in the next session. So at this point, we'll open the floor to questions. Remember, you can enter your questions in the Q&A manager, and I'll hand it off to Annie, who's going to answer any question, bring up any questions that come up. Annie?
Thanks, Rob. We do have one question. Does PPM support Kanban for running actual projects?
Great question. Absolutely. That Kanban board can be used during the life cycle of a project. So if I pull up one of the schedules I have, if I go to the Kanban board, I will actually see all the tasks and activities on that project there in the Kanban. Yep.
I'm not seeing any more questions in the queue, but we can wait a couple moments, see if anyone has any questions. Oh, here's another question. Number 1, the technology is using Microsoft Project as a base, correct?
So it's a different technology. We can use Microsoft Project to build and manage your project schedules and synchronize it with the Projility PPM solution, but it's not natively built on the project platform. It's a separate platform.
Number 2 within this question, does the cost of the license include the license for Microsoft Project?
It does not. So if you wanted to use it with Microsoft Project, you would bring along your Project Plan 3 license, and then this solution would be licensed separately.
Number 3, are there any limits while using Projility PPM with portfolios, projects, tasks per project, or number of resources, etc.?
There are no practical limits. It's all based on a relational database behind the scenes. So we have some clients that manage tens of thousands of resources in the tool. We've piloted with organizations that have over 15,000 projects. So it's absolutely a scalable solution and multiple portfolios for multiple types of businesses. Absolutely.
Number 4 within this question, the last one, are there clients already using Projility PPM pilot or production?
So because we're just launching this now, we've been working on the first pilots over the last couple of months. They will be going live with it over the next 90 days, at which point we will have actual live clients on the solution. But the platform it's built on literally has 1,000 clients. It's a company over in Europe that's been delivering these solutions for about the past 15 years. So we definitely have a lot of references on the platform. The Projility PPM version of it is just in progress right now.
Here's another question. Does PPM leverage the Power Platform and Power Apps?
So not natively, no, it's actually built on its own platform that's delivered as a software as a service application. We do have one client we're piloting it right now who is actually wanting to use a Power App on the front end for project intake and then flow that into the system through Power Automate, which is absolutely something that's possible. So you could use it to front end a lot of the processes in the tool.
Looks like the last question we have here. Will it work in the GCC tenant?
We are currently working on getting it validated in the GCC. So right now it's commercial only. We should have it validated in a GCC tenant in the next 6 to 12 months.
Looks like there's no further questions at this time. We do have a couple of offers that may be of interest to you. First, if you are interested in evaluating Projility PPM, we can set up a time to speak and capture your high-level needs and deliver a targeted demo for you and your PMO to show what's possible with this solution. Secondly, if you are looking to prove out the solution or do a small pilot, we offer a low-risk proof of concept or operational pilot where you can experience real-world use of the tool. Reach out via email at info@projility.com and we'll set up time to discuss your specific vision, needs, and goals. Thanks to everyone that joined our session today. We appreciate your time and look forward to seeing you online for our next webinar. Have a great day.